Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. This is our SSE Electricity League Premier Division show, and it's myself, Paul Nealon, joined by Gary Spain for this one. This is our second time doing this over, obviously because of last night's game. We probably should have done it anyway after last night's game, but anyway, we'll get straight into it. Dundalk versus Waterford. It was 2-2, and the goals were from Matthew Smith and Curtis Byrne, and then late on, Ali Coote got sent off, and Pat Hooban and Daniel Cleary got late goals for Dundalk, and Dundalk probably could have won it at the end. Obviously, the game was surrounded by the controversy of John Sheridan and Vinnie Perth, the whole pub league comments and stuff like that. The game was probably, overshadowed by those comments after the game and those interviews after the game, in which RTE and everybody else were asking Vinny for his, I suppose, post-match comments, and he decided to talk about John Sheridan. Well, that was all we heard. We didn't hear probably the full clip, but what were your thoughts overall at the game? And then after that, we'll get your thoughts on John Sheridan and Vinnie Perth's scuffle.
Yeah, it was a great game, Paul. It's a pity it has been overshadowed because it was a game that had everything, and both sides can probably have a lot to worry about from the game, and both can take a huge amount from the game. I mean,
You're gone there, Gary.
Dundalk had quite a few chances on our side, and I thought deserved their 2-goal lead. They played really well, as you said. Matthew Smith, a lovely tidy finish, and the second goal was made by former Dundalk players, with Michael O'Connor doing very well to set up, winning the ball, setting up Curtis Byrne, and a great finish. Two players, obviously, that they knew very well at Oriel Park. And then Ali Coote gets sent off. And I mean, it's got to be so frustrating for Waterford. I mean, it was a second yellow. They had 5 yellow cards in the second half. But it was a bit stupid. He was already on a yellow, and that definitely changed the course of the game. I mean, after that, Dundalk just powered forward. Pat Hooban, look, what a finisher, what a goal. A near post finish from Sean Murray's corner. And then Daniel Cleary, another near post finish, another corner. I mean, John Sheridan must have been tearing his hair out with that. I mean, the defending. And actually, with all the corners after that, Dundalk should have won it. They were absolutely peppering the Waterford goal. Daniel Cleary hit the bar. So I don't know. I mean, what a game. But ultimately, both sides will be disappointed with a point, I think.
Yeah, especially because, Watford were winning for so long and probably feel like a defeat for them. But, I mean, Dundalk, at that point, at 2-0 down, I was shocked, and I was like, okay, well, I think, they're out of the title race completely. But in fairness to them, they fought to the wire and got themselves a point, which, in many ways, I suppose because Shamrock Rovers drew, is a point gained in many ways.
Yeah, it's a point gained, and they've maintained their 2-year unbeaten home record, which they're very proud of. And it is great fighting spirit. Look, they were 2-0 down with 7 minutes to go, so you have to be happy to come back and get a point and almost win the game. But they really would have needed 3 points, and even with Shamrock Rovers not winning, I think it's an opportunity lost. I actually don't see it as a point gain for Dundalk, and I don't think the title race is over, but I think Dundalk's title challenge may well be over, unless they probably need to win every single game from now on.
Yeah, and obviously they'll have other games. They still have to play Bohs, still have to play Rovers as well. So there'll be those games as well that maybe they'll get the chance. Obviously they're in Europe tonight as well. But just quickly, your thoughts on the comments by allegedly by John Sheridan calling the league a pub league.
Well, as you say, allegedly, it hasn't been confirmed. It hasn't been denied either. Look, it's not a pub league, right? We know it's not a pub league. There are so many people who work so hard and do so well. And I mean, I know, and hopefully Dundalk will prove in Europe tonight that it's most certainly not a pub league. I know some people were saying that Vinny was using it to deflect because he has to be under pressure at the moment. I think Dundalk would expect to be either in first place or challenging for first place, and not probably a distant third. And certainly the Champions League uh, piles added pressure on this. Um, but I hate to see comments like this about our league, because a lot of people looking from outside, even a lot of people. I mean, the reality is, in this country, most football fans support Liverpool or Manchester United, and maybe the national team, but they don't have the same interest in our league. And unfortunately, a lot of football fans in this country do consider our league to be a pub league. And that's hurtful, but it's really hurtful from someone inside the league says it. And if it's true, I certainly, I really, really don't like it. And I don't really like dwelling on it either.
Yeah, if it is true though, I'd lose a lot of respect for John Sheridan. You know, I interviewed him after the Shelbourne game, and he seemed like a nice enough fella. But there was obviously the comments, and I did hear them myself of you know, either pretending not to know who Vinnie Perth was, or just saying it like some sort of like bad guy out of wrestling who pretends like he doesn't know who his opponent is, type of thing. And that's the kind of thing I got from it. But he seems to be really playing up to this kind of bad guy character. I don't know whether he wants that, but he's putting a real target on his back, which I think ultimately showed last night, which we will get to at the end of the program. But you know, I don't think it's the wisest thing to be doing if that is the case. Now I don't know, is it a tactic from Vinnie Perth to deflect onto John Sheridan to make him be the one that's getting all the negativity surrounding him rather than Vinny? I don't know, but they've got a huge game tonight in the Champions League qualifying round against, how do you say it, NK Selje, and it's obviously on RTE. It's at it's on at the coverage starts at 5:45. So anyone who is looking to watch that can watch it on RTE2. Just have it up there on my phone there on Twitter. So it's on RTE2 from 5:45 tonight. So, but look, as I say, Dundalk will be looking to bounce back. We'll be cheering on Dundalk in Europe tonight. You know, obviously we want to see all our Irish clubs doing well. So best of luck to Dundalk tonight, and I hope that they get the result that they need. And you know, it's a one-legged tie, so I think everybody should try and rally around them as best they can.
Yes, hopefully Dundalk will go through tonight. It would be a huge boost for them. Yeah, I think there's a lot of it in football is managers do try and deflect the pressure, more so from themselves, but particularly from their players. And I know if you look across the water, Jose Mourinho is the master at that and taking a lot of the pressure on himself rather than on his players. So maybe that was John Sheridan's tactic, and maybe he wants to make himself the bad boy as well. Um, I don't know. It's as you saw with the Sligo celebrations last night. It's people are trying to ram it down his throat now as well, which isn't good. And I mean, if you go back to if it is a pub league, what are you doing managing in it then?
Yeah, exactly. And because I know we'd actually kind of gone into length on it yesterday, but since then, obviously they played Sligo and stuff like that. But we will come to that. We will come to their game at the end, from last night. Then just on to Finn Harps and Bohs. Bohs going to Ballyfit Buffet, getting the win. Danny Grant again with another goal, another important goal. He obviously scored against Bohs, and now scored a lovely first touch to take the ball down from an Andre right flick on, and buries it with his right foot in the bottom corner. And I think in the absence of Dan Mandrell, he's really stepped up his game. And Chris Twardek, I know we mentioned as well yesterday, has been a revelation of a signing for them. Up there definitely for signing the season so far, 100%. And Andre Wright, to be fair, come in and take Dinny Corcoran's place. And I know he doesn't score that many goals, unless you're a UCD fan. He scored, I think, 4 in one night, or 5 maybe. But he has been great in terms of just being a target man and bringing other players into play. And then you look around and they're like their midfield as well. You got JJ Lunny, you've got Levinston, you've got Keith Buckley, you've got Keith Ward. I mean, it's no kind of coincidence that they have nearly 2 players for every position. Even in goals, they got Talbot and McGuinness, and that I don't think it's any surprise where they're up where they are. And I know you're a massive fan of Keith Long, and the job he's done there has been absolutely phenomenal. In Finn Harp's case, they'll, I think they'll be worried because they can't seem to get any sort of momentum going. They don't have fans inside the grounds, and obviously we got that announcement there last night about, games are going to continue behind closed doors, which another thing we will talk about towards the end of the show. But just kind of your thoughts on the Bohs Finn Harps game.
Yeah, so it's another big win for Bohs. I mean, I even go back to last season, and Bohs were superb last season. They finished third. I think a lot of us were expecting the bubble to burst because their budget-wise, they're a long, long way off Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers. On the pitch, they're not. No, but people thought, look, last season was a bit of a flash in the pan. They might get found out this season. If anything, they're even better. And I go back to your point you made, Paul. You've made a couple of times about squads. They need two players for every position. You've listed out so many quality players that Bohs have, right from having McGuinness and Talbot, two fantastic goalkeepers. So right from there, right up to the front to the centre forward with Wright or Corcoran. And as I said, I am a massive fan of Keith Long because I think he's done an amazing job and he's absolutely crucial for this Bohemians project, which is working so well. So yeah, they're proving all the doubters wrong again. And this was another good win. Ballybuffet is a tough place to go. And to go and get 3 points, you have to battle. You have to battle against an Ollie Horgan team at any point, particularly away from home. And it was a good win for Bohs. The goal, it was just a long ball played out from the back. Andre Wright did very well to win it, as you said. And Danny Grant, lovely touch, beat the full back, and then a lovely finish into the bottom corner with his right foot. We're talking about Bohs. As you said, Denny Mandrew was one of the key players last season. This season, it's Chris Twardick and Danny Grant on the wings, and they're absolutely on fire at the moment. And they're in the title race. Now, I don't think Bohs are going to win it, but they have a chance. And are they going to prove us all wrong again? I mean, can we write them off? They're going to Tala in a couple of weeks. Well, they have a tough game at home to Pats on Saturday first, but then they're going to Tala. And if they were to get 2 wins there, then it's title race on. You touched on Finn Harps as well. It's got to be bitterly disappointing. They haven't won.
Not even a shot on goal, Gary. On target.
Yeah, no, Carlos Sullivan came very close early on. It was an effort that was just wide. And if that had gone in, maybe it would have been different. But I've actually seen Harps a couple of times and they don't create too many chances. Decent enough at the back, although there's a couple of errors in them as well. And you have to fear for them. I mean, they're a couple of points adrift at the bottom now. They haven't won, as I said, since the opening day of the season. They're going to Waterford this weekend, and you got to feel they got to start picking up points very, very soon. And away from home is going to be tough.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I said it. I like the people up in Ballybuffet and the Finn Harps fans seem to be great people and great volunteers within the club and stuff like that. So I'd just like to see them maybe pick up a couple of points here and there and make the end of the season a bit more, I suppose, not so gloom for them, because at the moment it's looking quite gloom. Cork have picked up a win. Sligo have obviously lost against Cork and then picked up a win last night. So everyone's beating each other, which is the most crazy thing about we all know about the league. Everybody beats everyone in the league, but more so now, we don't know what way. You think teams are in a run of form, then they're not in a run of form, then you think that they're in a rough patch and they come back and then they get the win. It's just a strange time in the league, but I think Finn Harps are getting none, or they just seem to stay in the gloomy part, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I mean, they came back after lockdown, and they were, it was third from bottom. So Sligo have got 3 wins since then. So I think Sligo probably gone over the horizon. Harps haven't picked up a point. Cork were struggling, but they've picked up 4 points. So Cork have gone now 3 points ahead of them. And I think they're in danger of becoming adrift at the bottom because, as you said, yeah, the teams around them are all capable of picking up the odd win or picking up a point. There's some good performances, some bad performances. But Harps aren't picking up anything, and they need to turn that around very, very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's all we can really say on it. On to another game in the league, and a game that kind of contests the title race. Pats 0, Shamrock Rovers 0. Shane Griffin getting sent off. I think it was the 49th minute. He got sent off. And I mean, if you look at the possession stats there, I mean, Rovers had 74.5% possession, Pats at 25.5%, and then Rovers had 20 shots. Five of them were on target, and then Pats had one shot and none on target. So, if you're looking at that game, it's like something from FIFA where, you have someone playing against someone who just luckily escapes with a point. I mean, look, Pats have shown that they have quality in their team. They went against Dundalk and really put it up to them, and were unlucky not to win that game. I mean, had they scored rather than hit the post, they win that game up in Oriel, and then they beat Finn Harps. Georgie Kelly looks like he's going to go on a bit of a run, but I think the sending off ultimately killed them off in terms of their attacking play, and they were just happy to sit and defend. And I believe Brendan Clark had an unbelievable game as well.
Yes, only watching it online on the stream, but yes, Brendan Clark is superb. I mean, I know him from as a Limerick fan. We had him in Limerick for a couple of seasons and a great goalkeeper. Yeah, Pats defended very well. They'll be delighted with the point. I mean, you mentioned the draw up in Oriel Park, and Pats were full value for that. I thought a draw was a fair result in Oriel Park. Pats could have won it, they could have lost it. Rovers absolutely dominated the match. The 74% possession is not a surprise. And they did everything but score. I thought Neil Ferrugia had a fantastic game. Graham Burke played very well for Rovers. On another day, they could have got 3 or 4. And I'll start by saying, first of all, I think Rovers are the best team in the league. And I think Rovers will win the league. But there's one failing for Rovers, and they probably had, I think they'll admit it themselves, the fans will admit it for a few years, they probably just need a striker who can score regularly, put the ball in the net, maybe a fox in the box. I know they got the likes of Aaron Green and Rory Gaffney, but they're not, there's nobody there to score enough goals. Now, they have a lot of goals in the team, and they're getting goals from all over the pitch. But on a day like Sunday, when it's just not happening for them, even though they had so many chances. Was it something like 20 efforts or whatever they had in goal? And they just need a striker to put the ball.
Only 5 on target though.
Yeah, and you just kind of feel if Pat Hooban was in a Rover shirt, or Georgie Kelly, or I don't know who else, that they would have found a way to win it. Now, having said that, I mean, a draw away to Pats is not a bad result, and Rovers, they're 4 points clear of Bohs. They're 8 clear of Dundalk. And I think they will go on and win the league, and they have been the most impressive side so far. So, look, you can't win every game, and but Pats will be far, far happier with the point, particularly once Shane Griffin went off when they really had to dig in, they had to battle hard, and Pats for Europe is a good shout.
Yeah, it's just I see in the comments there, Philip McGuire has just came in with a comment there, just saying the Green has stepped up since the Europe last season, but I agree we need that man who will put it away 9 times out of 10. Basically, I think he's right there in that sense, and I do think Aaron Green has been a really just really improved since Europe last year. I know he scored that worldie of a goal, and he went on a real good run of scoring goals. He obviously scored earlier on in the season to beat Bohs. He does pop up with the occasional good goal, but he doesn't do it often enough, and I do think he misses a lot more chances than he scores. But still a very good player, but not a top level Pat Hooban type striker who will put it away more often than not, as Philip has just said there.
Yeah, I think that's the point. I mean, he does lead the line very well, and he is a valuable player for Rovers. But they probably don't have someone who can get the 15, 20 goals a season.
Yeah, but the thing is, they have had players chipping in with goals from all over, and that young lad, Dean Williams, looks like a good little player as well. So he's obviously very young and probably will mature into a better striker in time. Shamrock Rovers fans will hope anyway. But yeah, I mean, look, I think Bohs have to play against Pats now this week, so it'll be interesting to see can Pats slow Bohs down, and then if Rovers get a result, then. But Rovers are playing Shells in Tala, which is going to be a huge test as well. But we might as well move on to Shells while we're on the subject of them. It was a game I was at. Shells won, Derry won, and to be honest with you, it's a game the Shells I think could have won. But if you're a Derry City fan, you'll be saying, "Well, what are you talking about, Paul? You know, we scored a penalty and we hit the woodwork, we hit the bar twice." But Shells, for me, before Derry got their penalty, Shells were the only team creating chances. It was constantly creating chances, but like Shamrock Rovers, they don't have someone there to put the ball in the net. Kieran Caduff is a very good player. Aaron Dobbs is a very good player. He obviously came off the bench as well, but they just don't have that player who will consistently get the ball in the net and as good as they are at creating chances. And to be fair to Shelbourne, let's not forget that they had Luke Byrne out, they had Lorcan Fitzgerald out, they had Oscar Brennan out, who were all leaders of that team, especially coming up last season. They were all leaders, and they had players coming in who stepped in. You got Georgie Poynton coming in at right full. You had Alex O'Hanlon came in at left back for Lorcan Fitzgerald. Then you had Dan O'Reilly coming in for Luke Byrne. So you had all these changes coming in, and I thought Shell showed a lot more energy considering the week previous when they played Sligo. They just looked like they were lacking energy, but I put that down to playing 80s or so minutes with 10 men against Finn Harps and getting a 1-0 win. So it was good to see Shells back to their energetic best, and then Derry, I mean, Ibrahim Meite, who obviously won the penalty, a lovely little pirouette in the box, and he got absolutely taken out of it. He scores the penalty. But before that, it was all Shells. And then after that, he looked a bit lively, but he was the only one on the Derry team that looked lively on the ball, creating chances and stuff like that. But, going to the second half, then it just became all Shells again. It made subs. They brought on Ryan Brennan. They brought on Jays Cabia, and they were going at Derry then at that point. And from Derry's point of view, they brought on Adam Hamill, they brought on Conor McCormick, who's very experienced, won leagues with Cork City and so on, very good player. So they brought him on to kind of short things up. But Ryan Brennan ultimately gets the goal from a Georgie Poynton free kick, great ball in, and a great header. And Ryan Brennan seems to be popping up with crucial goals for Shells. Obviously, he scored the winner against Finn Harps. Big game player, and I think his experience is really valuable to that Shells team. Aaron Dobbs came on late on, done well, but again, he just doesn't score the goals to win the games. And maybe that's something he will add in time because he is still quite young. But at the moment, he comes on and he grafts for the team. But I think for his sake, he needs a goal soon. And I think that might get him on a little bit of a run. But from Derry's point of view, I think Hamill, hit the bar twice within a couple of minutes after Shells had scored the equaliser. So you're kind of looking at it going, Derry can be dangerous, especially some of the players that they've brought in with Mate and Hamill coming in, and they signed some other players as well. I do think that Derry, you'll see the best of them as games kind of come on now and over the next couple of weeks, and obviously they're going to be playing in Europe as well. But I think Derry will finish strong. I think Derry will probably finish fourth.
Yeah, that's a big shout because if you're looking at the league table and you're looking at the results, it's very hard to call it, and you can make a case for any of them. I mean, if Derry lose to Cork at the weekend, they'll actually be in the playoff spot. In fact, so if they win, they're right up there. If they win, potentially they could be at least level in points with fourth, if not in fourth, if all the other results go right. It's all so tight. Yeah, I think Shells would be happier with the point. So, I mean, Derry have only 8 points so far. It's got to be a big disappointment for them. They would have been expected to be a lot higher up the table. But as you said, they've got some really good players. They will probably take a while to gel. Mate making his debut. Yeah, players get to know each other. Probably a good shout to say they will pick up more wins later in the season. Yeah, Shells. I was talking about Keith Long. Another good young manager is Ian Morris, and he's done quite a job with Shelbourne. And you mentioned again all the players they had to bring in for whatever reasons that weren't available, and they come in and do a job. I mean, yeah, I mean Georgie Poynton at right back. I mean, he's not a right back, is he? Maybe he is now, but it's improvising, getting a result, digging out a result. I mean, is Shells for Europe? If you're looking at the league table, you have to say Shells for Europe is a shout as well. I think, and I mean, Shells probably the target would have been to avoid relegation. I think probably they'll end up in mid-table. I don't think they'll end up in a relegation battle, and probably maybe fall off the pace for Europe in the end. But things are happening in Tolka, and it's good to see. And there's a real fighting spirit, a real battling spirit, which is great.
But I have to say, from a commercial point of view, that Shelbourne are doing great work. The lads there, Gavin and Shane Dawson and all, they're doing great work for the Patreon there. Darren Cleary as well. So they're finding other ways to get money in with Patreon and just other little avenues. And I do think with David O'Connor there, he's done a magnificent job as CEO as well. And it just, as you say, good things are kind of blossoming there at Shells, but I don't think it's as a Shells fan, I'm not going to be that, I'm not going to go over the top and say, oh yeah, we can finish in Europe. I'd be happy with a mid-table finish, and anything above that would be a bonus. And I think any other Shells fan who's realistic would take that right now. But I do think Derry will get stronger as the season goes on, and I think that players like Mate, he looks like a really, really good player. And yeah, I just think it'll be interesting. But we've two more games to talk about, and obviously it's Cork's 3-0 win over Sligo. And at this stage, I thought this was a very surprising result, considering Sligo just beaten Shells. They were up, after getting a couple of positive results and stuff like that. We'll go through the goal scores now. Deshaun Darling with the first goal on 35 minutes. He's obviously on loan from QPR. Then we had Kit Elliott in the 77th minute, and then again, Denanga scores in the 94th minute. Another late goal after they got the result against Longford, which they were celebrating like they won a trophy, as Roy Keane would say. But I just put that as a joke, like as a tweet, like, oh, you swear they won a trophy or something. But I was happy to. Obviously, we have a few lads doing some work for us, Jack and Aaron and stuff like that, who are big on Cork City, and we want to see Cork doing well. And we don't like to see them in the relegation zone, or don't want to see them get relegated. Full stop, because it kills the atmosphere of a huge fan base within the league, and for them to go down, I think the fan base would suffer a lot, and I don't think that they would. I don't think it would do anything good for the league,
No, I mean it's the second city, as you said. They have the biggest fan base in the league. If you look at the Patreon numbers, I think, and season ticket sales, and it's remarkable
and watch
considering
LOI as well.
Watch LOI, and it's remarkable how big how that remains, even though they had been playing so badly and getting so many bad results. Well, right up to last weekend. Yeah, you touched on the Longford game. Yeah, it was. I mean, they won it. The Neil Fenn derby as well. They won it in the 120th minute from Ricardo Denanga, but they were down to 10 men, and then they were able to take that into the Sligo game. Now, I think 3-0 absolutely flattered Cork. I think Sligo Rovers will probably feel they could have even had a point, or certainly they were in the game. Jesse Devers should have scored at 0-0. He'd missed a great chance. Even when Cork went a goal up, a great goal by Deshaun Darling. Even then, they needed Mark McNulty, and I mean, Mark McNulty is 39. He's going to be 40 in a few weeks, and he was superb. He made some great saves, and he's still doing it. I mean, how long has he been around? And he's still able to do it. He was fantastic, and some great saves to keep Cork City ahead. And I suppose Cork will probably feel a lot of one goal defeats. I saw him lose by a goal to Pats, and they before lockdown, and they could have got something out of the game. I don't think they deserved anything out of the game, but they could have got a draw with a bit of luck, and they'll probably feel they were due a bit of luck. And so it didn't fall right for Sligo, and then the second goal, the penalty from Kit Elliott, he was fouled himself for it, probably killed it, and then your man with the late goals again, Ricardo Denanga. So, 3-0 probably flatters Cork, helps their goal difference, but it's a huge boost. It gives them some breathing space ahead of Finn Harps, and they'll probably feel they certainly probably won't be going down automatically now if they can build on this.
Yeah, well, like if you're looking at the possession stats, Sligo had 58.7%. Cork had 41.3%, and then Cork actually had more shots at 14-13, and then they had 3 on target, and Sligo had 5 on target. So the 3 shots they had on target were 3 goals. That is absolutely clinical, if you ask me. But no, fair play to them. It was good to see them get a win. Now it's going to be interesting. Can they carry momentum into the next few games and get a couple of points on the board, which is what they've been needing. They, again, like every other team, it's like when you look at what they do compared to other teams, they're just not getting the results that you would want from a Cork perspective. They just don't have the players to put the ball in the net. And so many teams, other than Dundalk, and maybe you'd probably say Bohs and Rovers, At least with Bohs and Rovers, they have players chipping in from all over the pitch. But I don't think that Cork have that. But I do think maybe with Deshaun Darling, he might go on a bit of a run, and then we have Denanga as well. So let's just see how that one kind of pans out. And then on to the last game, which was obviously last night, and it was Sligo 2, Waterford 1. Talk about bouncing back. Michael O'Connor scores in the 16th minute, and then Ronan Coughlin scores in the 77th minute, and Alex Cooper with a late free kick curled it around the wall, and basically the last kick of the game to win it for Sligo. And the celebrations, obviously, to take aim at John Sheridan about his pub league comments, and there were necking points and everything else.
Yeah, so it's going to be a tough one for Waterford to swallow as well. I mean, they did really well. Timo Sobowale did really well actually to set up Michael O'Connor, and he's a crucial player for Waterford. He's playing really well, and young player who's got possibly a good future in our league, or maybe further afield. Michael O'Connor, good finish. Seen Waterford took the lead. Waterford could have gone, well, with a very big win, they could have gone third, but they could have gone clear fourth and level with Dundalk had they won. And they were ahead for most of the game. Now, Sligo were well worth at least a point. If not, they'll probably feel they certainly deserve to win it as well. Yeah, Ronan Coughlin, good finish, 13 minutes from time. And then the free kick. It was a superb free kick. The way Alex Cooper curled it around the wall, it was well outside, and he curled it into the near post, and it seemed to be starting out well outside the wall. I actually, looking at it in the stream, I thought the wall was actually set up properly. It was fine. And it was just brilliant the way he curled it just inside the post. And what a time to do it. I mean, the game was over, whatever it was, the 93rd, 94th minute. Yeah, the celebrations from Sligo probably really rubbing it in. I see they had a fan climb the ladder in Tracy Avenue as well with a homemade sign for, wasn't too impressed with John Sheridan's comments either. Of all places, this league and domestic football in Sligo, it's such you talk about the great people in Finn Harps, and they are. There's great people in Sligo town. It is a real football town. They really love the local Rovers, and John Sheridan's comments will have hurt them, and that win will have been very sweet for them. They're a great club, great football people, in a bit of an outpost for football. I mean, you're over in Sligo, you're not surrounded by too many footballing areas, and yeah, so I think Sligo now you're looking at them up in 9 points. It's 3 wins since lockdown. I can't see Sligo being involved in the relegation zone now, and they've Junior to come in as well, and he'll score some goals for them. And Sligo for Europe, I saw someone's mentioned it in the comments, and it's a good shout. I mean, I know we're talking about everyone for Europe because you're looking at the league table and you get a couple of wins, and you can, 4th place is wide open, and Sligo are in a bit of form, and who knows.
Yeah, well, I do think I mentioned it earlier on the show that John Sheridan, with his comments, if again, these haven't been confirmed or denied, but with those comments, he's going to have a target on his back the whole season, and it'll probably continue while he's manager of Waterford. I don't really see him staying till after the end of the season. I could probably see him walking away after that, but he's put a big target on his back, and teams are going to be more reluctant. All you got to do is put pub league on the wall before the game, and that's your team talk done. Like, he put a massive target on his back. If that is the case, although I'd probably say that Vinnie Perth has put a massive target on John Sheridan's back for it.
Yeah, well, you could say it's a master stroke by Vinny as well to deflect all the pressure off him because, I mean, potentially Vinny's job, unfortunately, seems to be under pressure, which may sound crazy given that they're champions and playing in the Champions League tonight, but the standards are just so high in Dundalk that they expect to be winning the league.
Yeah. Well, just to finish up on the league table before we just talk about obviously what's happened with the government and all that crap. But Shamrock Rovers, are top after 8 games on 22 points. Bohs second on 18 points. Dundalk third on 14 points. St. Pat's are in fourth on 11 points. Waterford joint fourth on 11 points. Shells are a point behind in sixth, 10 points in sixth. Then Sligo are 9 points in seventh. Derry are in eighth, 8 points from 8 games. And then Cork are 7 points from 8 games, second bottom. And then Finn Harps are on 4 points from 8 games. So it looks very gloom for Finn Harps. They're on a minus 10 goal difference, and Cork City are on a minus 8 goal difference. Mind you, Sligo have a minus 5 goal difference. They got a couple of results, and look where they are. I mean, they're basically 2 points off fourth place. So, as you said, I think yesterday in the show we did that if any of those clubs in the top 3 finish by winning the cup fourth, then becomes the European spot. So, it's wide open for anyone who goes on a run of games, and especially I think it's a bit of an advantage for anyone. I think I overheard Ian Morris saying to one of the RTE journalists the other day that, and I think Stephen O'Donnell said it as well to Ger when he was talking to him, Ger Brown, our man. But he said basically you'd be lying if you're not eyeing up the table and trying to finish us in fourth, and that way you get Europe. So I mean, there's a whole host of teams there. And we got Derry, Waterford. You've even got Sligo in the race now, you have to say. You've got Shelbourne in there, and you've got St. Pat's. So there's so many teams in there that are looking at it. But let's just quickly talk about, just to finish up, your thoughts on this government's games are going to be continued behind closed doors, which I think is a travesty for clubs who have followed every guideline. We've been to games. I've been to many games since we've been allowed to have people go to games. They've done everything from check the temperature, filling out surveys, everything like that. Done everything to the letter of the law. You wash your hands as you go in. You're separated from people. You're not like, the spaces have been separated. It's all done properly. And now you get this from, in my opinion, the clowns that are running this country. And it just infuriates me, to be honest with you. But what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's so frustrating, Paul. As you said, the clubs have been superb. I've been to quite a few grounds. I was in Bray on Friday night. I was in UCD on Monday night. And both of them had, Bray, I think, had 40 season ticket holders on rotation. UCD had about 40 or 50 fans in as well. Again, home fans, very strictly controlled. Everything was social distance. They had hand sanitizers. They had so many signs up. Everything, all the rules were followed. It's outdoors. And it's just crazy. I think it's the government. They feel like they have to do something because the cases are going up, but they're not doing look. We all are concerned about this virus, but they're not looking at where it's spreading. I mean, 50 people can still go to the cinema and watch a movie indoors, and every country in the world, all the experts are saying the virus is much more likely to spread indoors. And 40 or 50 people can't sit social distance outdoors in a stadium that, let's say, Tala Stadium holds 7,000 people, and there's 2 completely empty stands. And I mean, I was expecting the limit to go from the 200 to 500, and it's also so ham-fisted as well. They said they're reducing the limit from 200 down to 15. Now, they've had to backtrack on that because, I mean, the 200 obviously included all the players. I mean, if you're reducing it down to 15, you have 7 aside and a referee, or 6 aside and the 2 managers. I don't know. But anyway, it's, I think we're still awaiting to see exactly how the guidelines, but it does mean that the clubs that were letting in spectators, unfortunately, won't be allowed to do so. And then you see things like happened in the bar in Dame Lane last weekend in Dublin, and the scenes of that, and there's no action taken against that. And I even see pubs down the country are really frustrated because you have pubs in small villages, there's no pub open, and you'd only have a few old lads sitting around, social distance, and that's not allowed. But what's happened in Dame Lane is allowed, or if it's not allowed, it hasn't been stopped. People have said, yeah, it's disgraceful, but yeah, carry on, it's not a problem. Like, you go to the meat processing factories and all the stuff there. And I mean, I think it's a case the government had to be seen to do something, and sport is an easy target. And I actually look at the GA have actually really taken them on, and it's going to be interesting because I'm not a fan of the GA, but I tell you this much: they have a point, and I agree with them fully. They're actually spot on this. They're saying, well, show us the evidence, because It's totally so our government have gone against the rest of the world because we're restricting people outdoors and allowing 50 people to go to a wedding. We're allowing 50 people to go to the cinema. That's still okay.
Mass.
Yeah. Mass, yeah. I mean, religious services, and I know. I think some of the churches they're able to designate different wings of the churches as being different buildings to get more than the 50 people in, and that's allowed. Um, Now I know mass and religion is very important for a huge amount of people, and so maybe that's but football and sport is hugely important as well. Whatever your sporting preferences, and I think it's an easy target. It's they probably felt, yeah, the cases are rising, we have to do something, and but we want to be seen to be doing something rather than actually identify the problem, what's actually causing the cases to rise. And I don't think 40 people sitting around socially distanced in the Carlisle grounds or in Ballybuffet or in Sligo is the problem.
Yeah, and you obviously look at people's mental health and stuff like that. Football's a real release for people to get out and do stuff and something like that. And now it's completely taken away from, say, the 50 fans you've spoken about or whatever. There was fans in Talca Park for Shells and Derry last week as well, and seemed to just really enjoy the fact that they were just there. Get to see their team and enjoy it. A little bit of atmosphere. It was nice to hear a couple of chants here and there. But now look, it's nonsense, really, in my opinion. And as you say, it's just an easy target. And fair play to the GAA showing a bit of backbone to put it up to them. And maybe we could do a bit more leadership like that as well.
Yeah, I actually I'd like to see the GA get a bit of support. I think part of it is, I mean, the government did give 40 million to the three major sporting organisations, the FEI, the IRFU, and the GAA. So maybe there's a concern. I don't want to rock the boat, and maybe the FEI are saying let the GA make the running on this. But I mean, I know GA is hugely important, particularly if you go down to rural Ireland. I mean, the club GA was a huge outlet, and I mean, 200 people standing around a field in Roscommon or Kilkenny or wherever it is. How is that a way of spreading the virus? It's not. I mean, all the experts, you're looking at them all over the world. They're concerned about indoors, not outdoors.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, if you're watching live or you're watching this back after it's gone out, let us know your thoughts on these new guidelines or whatever you want to call it, restrictions. And yeah, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you're a new subscriber or if you're a returning watcher. Make sure to hit that subscribe button now, and we'll speak to you soon. Gary, you are on your way to Limerick, so thanks very much for giving up your time, and I'll chat to you soon.